And welcome once again to Strange Planet. On this edition, I don't need to tell you we are living in incredibly turbulent times, geopolitically, economically, culturally. The pace of technology is absolutely frightening. Luckily, on this episode, however, we have a world-renowned trends forecaster. He's going to help us navigate these rough waters to tell us what's going to happen before it happens. That's why he's the founder of the Trends Research Institute. Gerald Celente is well respected for his track record of picking business, consumer, political, and economic trends before they come to pass. It's his job to see the future and understand how the issues and events of today will determine the trends of tomorrow. Gerald, welcome back. How are you?
I'm okay. I mean, how am I? All the people my age, we all say, "Wow, glad I'm an older cat," And when I was a young guy, the polls used to show the future was always going to be better than the past, and now they're the exact opposite. So, in listening to the introduction about what you do and how you look at the demonic and evil things going on, I mean, it's a freak show in front of everybody's eyes. And you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to see how bad it is. There's an article that just came out from Intercept just today. Mm-hmm. Kissinger behind 3 million civilian deaths. Henry Kissinger, the forest policy, who advised a half dozen U.S. presidents, has caused the deaths of over 3 million people, according to the Intercept report published Tuesday to mark the real political strategist on his 100th birthday. People forget this. Now, I grew up during the Vietnam War. I remember the lies that were being told. And I believed them, by the way, as a young kid. Mm-hmm. I believed the BS that they were shoving out there. I just didn't want to go get killed. That's why I tried to avoid the draft. But it's demonic, evil people running our lives. And look at them. Who do you look up to? You got up there in Canada, you got that little Trudeau, a little arrogant daddy's boy, born on third base and thought he had a home run. An arrogant little nothing of a boy. Nothing. One after another. Take a trip to the UK. Who'd you have over there? Boris Johnson. A cartoonist could not come up with a more freaky looking clown than the jerk they had there now, and another jerk replacing him, that Sundak, whatever his name is. And then you go all over the world, a little Catson Macron, the little fake little boy of nothing over there in France. Look at the American politicians telling the people what to do. Little Chucky Schumer, Diane Not So Feinstein out of her mind. Out of his mind, little BS Biden. Lindsay, did you come out of the closet yet, Graham? Mitch, more chins than Chinatown McConnell. One little dope jerk after another telling us what to do. And the people, yes, sir, I follow you. We're nothing more than plantation workers on Slavelandia. So listening to the introduction of what you do, boy, it's 100%. The evilness is right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I've been talking about these things, for 20-some years, and now but it was always on the horizon, in the future. Maybe it'll happen, it could happen, 15-minute cities, digital currency, and all this. Now it's here, right in front of us. And I want to mention to people the Trends Journal, and the latest edition out. Talk about satanic. Just tell us a little bit about the front cover. It's some amazing artwork here. You've got a satanic-looking figure in a suit. We, the politicians, are in charge. F you, the people, and F you, AI. Just kind of describe what we see on the front cover here with this satanic figure.
Oh, by the way, that cover was banned on Facebook. They called it pornography.
Seriously?
I'm seriously. A fan just told us. Just emailed us.
Wow.
Yep. That's that. Oh, and who runs Facebook? Who? Look at that little freaky little boy, Zuckerberg. Look at this little piece of garbage. Hey, remember that guy Dorsey? Ooh, Ooh,
Yeah.
Twitter. You know, they got it wrong in the King James Bible. They say the meek shall inherit the earth. They misspelt it. The geeks have inherited the earth.
That's it.
So when you're looking at the cover, the politicians want no competition. They are in total control. Look what they did in 2020. I'm some arrogant little clown. Oh, I watched all of the ones up there in Canada and your bureaucrats, that the health ministers and all these little jerks and all over the globe. Here we go. Stand 1 meter apart. The coronavirus goes exactly in straight lines and stops at 1 meter. When you go into an airplane, put on that mask. But when you eat and drink and you're surrounded by people, you can take it off because the COVID knows when you're eating and drinking and it won't bother you. Oh, and how about this one? When you go into a restaurant, and again, tables have to be 6 feet apart, you got to go with your mask on. But when you sit down, you can take it off because the virus does not go at table height and it knows when you're eating and drinking and doesn't bother you. I am in charge. Shut down your business. I'm some little scumbag named Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York. My real name is Warren Wilhelm Jr., but I changed it to get the Italian-American vote. One little clown after another all around the world. The damage that's been done is incalculable. Physically, emotionally, economically, spiritually. Again, we write it in the Trends Journal. Take a look at this week's copy. Oh, young people dying at levels never seen before. Suicide, drug overdoses. They hate life because of the COVID war. Oh, the masks. Oh, yeah. Kids can't talk, little kids, because they're masked up. Oh, yeah. Facts are all there. Crime rates. Oh, yeah, it's lovely. As we said, all this would happen. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it.
Opioid epidemic.
Get ready for the office building bust. The banking crisis has just begun. We are going into the greatest recession. Stay home. Don't go to work. And people staying at home, they're saying, oh, geez, I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to commute an hour and a half each way. All right, come in 2 or 3 days a week. And I don't have to rent all this space either. Oh, and you got floating loans. Oh, the interest rates are way higher. And I got a lot less tenants. You're going to see defaults like you've never seen before. Again, going back to the cover of the Trends Journal, the politicians are in full control of our lives.
The Trends Journal, History Before It Happens, and it's been forecasting since 1980. You talk about all of these office buildings, vacancies in all of the major cities all over North America. So what happens when commercial real estate crashes? What is the domino effect?
Oh, the banks fail. The banks fail, and that's when the markets are going to go down. You see, people are already in a recession. You look at the data. In America, depending on whose numbers you look at, it's between 60 and 64% of the people living paycheck to paycheck. The facts are there. So what's going to happen is that people are already feeling it. Again, look at the data coming out. Home Depot, numbers are down. Lowe's, numbers are down. Target, off target. One after another. One Foot Locker going down. Stocks, they're all getting hit hard. You look at the PMI numbers, the Purchasing Manufacturers Index, way down. It's below 50. Anything below 50 is a drag down. So the people know how bad it is, but it doesn't come reality until the markets crash. Then it hits the reality. So when the banks crash, that's when the markets go down. And very important. And the only reason the dollar is strong right now is because of the high interest rates. The higher the interest rates, the stronger the dollar. When they start lowering interest rates, the dollar, this is the death of the dollar. and gold prices are going to spike, is our forecast. Spike well beyond $2,200 an ounce, even toward the $2,500 an ounce level. The world has had enough of the United States economic and geopolitical hegemony.
The BRIC countries, I think, are meeting in St. Petersburg shortly, and there's, I believe, something like 80 countries, close to 80 countries now, that are signing on with BRIC. This is Brazil, Russia, India, what am I missing? South Africa, and some 80 other countries. China, thank you. That was the C. I forgot. China. How can I forget China? And all they're starting to trade, obviously, in their own currency. So this is all part of this de-dollarization.
Yep.
So are we finally now arriving with something we've been talking about for many, many years, that the U.S. dollar will no longer be the international reserve currency? When will that happen likely, and what will it be replaced by?
It's hard to say the when. It could happen at any moment. For example, if they do away with the petrodollar, that's the end of the dollar. And already China, you mentioned, they're buying their oil from Saudi Arabia. They're paying for it in Chinese yuan. So it's going to be a slow process. It's not going to happen overnight. The reason is that China, unfortunately, one of our forecasts, the 20th century was the American century. The 21st century is going to be the Chinese century. The business of America has been war. The business of China is business. Americans are spending over $1 trillion a year for the military and the intelligence industrial complex. When you put the two together, and they won't tell us the true numbers that we're giving to the CIA, the NSA, and all the other ones. The United States military, we have 800 military bases in about 70 countries overseas. As China has a handful. So America's business is war. And the Chinese are going to be taking over. All of this stuff about, the G7 going against China, it's nothing but BS, because they need to sell their products to the Chinese market. You got 1.2 billion people there. And you could thank Bill Clinton for bringing China into the World Trade Organization. And there used to be the thing that happened, people forget about it. It was called the Battle of Seattle, 1999. In Seattle, Washington, some 50,000 people took to the streets to protest. They had the World Trade Organization meeting there in Seattle, and they were bringing China in. The people were protesting because they knew the jobs would be taking offshore and we'd lose our manufacturing in the United States. But what they did was they do all the time. They had some agents provocateurs there, smashing windows, burning a car or two, and that was all the news. So you look at China's GDP from 1970, and they officially came into the World Trade Organization 2 weeks after 9/11, 2001, and then you watch their GDP shoot up. Mm-hmm. So when you talked about the BRICS, just put China and India together, and what do you have? 2.4 billion people?
Yep. Quarter of the world's population.
You have in the United States, 332 million. So it's the United States is gone. And they're doing, by the way, the Americans became the people our founding fathers fought against. The rotten, dirty, scum British, where the sun never set on the British Empire. Megalomaniacs. So because of all the wars that they started, and then you go back to the end of World War I, that was the end of the pound. And the same thing has happened with the United States with all of its wars. Brown University just came out with a study last week that showed since 9/11, the United States has spent over $8 trillion waging wars and killed, they're not sure the exact number, 4.3 to 4.5 million people.
Imagine if a quarter of that money was spent rebuilding American infrastructure and investing in people. And it would be a whole different story. Gerald will take a quick time out. Gerald Celente, the founder of the Trends Research Institute, publisher of the Trends Journal, trendsjournal.com. Trendsjournal.com. Back with more of our conversation right after this. Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there. And welcome once again to another episode of Strange Planet. Thanks for sticking me in your ear. And on this edition, exploring the mysteries of crop circles from a very different perspective. L.A. Marzulli is an author, lecturer, filmmaker. He's penned more than a dozen books, including the Nephilim Trilogy, which made the CBA bestseller list. He received an honorary doctorate for the series from his mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas. And he is also, of course, well known for teaming up with his late film producer, Richard Shaw, to create the Watcher series. I believe there were nearly 12 installments in the series. His latest video, or film rather, is called UFO Disclosure Part 5, Crop Circles, and it's exposing the secret language of the dragon. L.A., welcome back. How are you?
I'm good, Richard. How about yourself, sir?
Very well. I've done so many shows on crop circles, and I've had experts come on and talk about how they are, created by UFOs, and that there's signs for UFOs, signposts, if you will. I've had other people come on talking about how they're created from deep within the earth and has something to do with plasma vortexes and so forth. You're coming at this from a biblical prophecy angle. First of all, what do you mean by language of the dragon?
And what drives me nuts about the other side of the aisle, the New Agers, they get it. They understand something's going on. They connect a lot of the dots, but they never get there because they look at the Bible and they just throw it away. Mm-hmm. Most of them, not all, but most. And so they go, "Oh, it's just a bunch of myth." And well, I've read it, but unless a person is born again and spirit filled, they can't unlock what's in there. That's number one. So, that happened to me 43 years ago, and it was life-changing, and I had no idea I'd be doing what I'm doing now. The language of the dragon is mathematics. The dragon is the fallen cherub, commonly known as Satan. People will argue that, but the bottom line is most of us know the dragoon because the book of Revelation says Michael and his angels fight with the dragon, Satan, and his angels, and the devil, Satan, the dragon, that serpent of old was cast down. So the book of Revelation gives him 4 titles there in that sentence, which is amazing. So he's got many different names. I prefer to call him a dragon because I think that's his true form. That's his true form. So the secret language of the dragon is mathematics. And this is not plasma vortexes, mindlessly spinning crop circles in 3-dimensionality. It's just not gonna fly. They've seen, eyewitnesses have seen balls of light over the field.
Yes.
Orbs over the field. And then we show that in the film. There's more than one of those. So that's what I believe that they are. It's the language of the dragon. It's deliberate. It's in your face. And the bottom line is this: they do this with impunity. So, a farmer goes out in this field. It's like a summer day, late summer day, and it's like, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and he looks at his field of wheat or rapeseed or whatever, and he goes, "This is great. I'll be harvesting in a couple of weeks. This is really cool." Goes back in, he goes to sleep, sleeps sound, wakes up the next morning. Around 10 or 11 o'clock, he's on his tractor, and he kind of looks over and he eyes his field, but something's there that shouldn't be, and he can't believe what he's looking at. He gets off the tractor and then he stands up on the tractor and he looks out and he sees like there's some sort of an image that seems to be there in the field. So maybe he goes back to the barn and gets a ladder or hops on it, whatever he does. But the bottom line is he realizes that, oh my gosh, there's a crop circle in my field. Many times, specifically over in England, because it's so widespread, they know who to call. They'll pick up the phone and call certain people. The investigators come out. In the old days, they used to fly ultralights over the field. That's what we had. In the new days, we fly our drones. We don't need an ultralight. No point in risking, limb and life and everything else in an ultralight. I mean, it looks like a lot of fun, but something goes wrong, you could be in a lot of trouble. With a drone, it's like dink and I'm up and flying over the field and nobody cares. Whoever does it does so with utter impunity. They basically do it and they say, we don't care. You can't stop us. You can't do anything about it. We come and go with complete impunity, which is true. Just like the abduction phenomena, just like the cattle mutilations, it's just like what we now see, the Pentagon released last week some, UFO footage in Iraq. What are we going to do with this? Oh my gosh. It's pedantic. It's academic. It's sophomoric in some ways for those of us who have traveled in the field.
When you say that mathematics is the language of the dragon or Satan, can you help us? How do we arrive at that?
Well, the enemy, the dragon, is very concerned with mathematics. He's huge on that. He's really big on the connectivity between different ancient megalithic sites. So one of the crop circles which we show, and this is the work of the late David Flynn. I want to thank Mark Flynn if he's watching this or gets, Mark was the one that helped us get this message out. But when you look at the crabwood glyph, which is unbelievable, it's the alien face showing the alien holding a disc. This was Mark Flynn's logo, his business logo. So David Flynn, his brother, looks at this thing, and David was like, he was a genius. The guy was amazing. And I never met him, but I spoke to him like 3 or 4 times on the phone. And he contacted me when I actually wrote the book Nephilim. When that came out, he contacted me. Anyway, so David is looking at this and begins to translate it. And what he realized is there was a message hidden, encoded in the lines, in the mathematics that's there. And when you start multiplying things, and you got to watch the film to really get the whole deal. But one of the things that David discovered is that you wind up with the exact nautical miles from the Crabwood Glyph to Roswell, New Mexico. 1947 is embedded in the Crabwood Glyph several times, more than once. So this is the way they communicate. This is the way the dragon communicates. But not only that, it's with the solstices and the 18.5-year lunar cycle. It's all connected. And many of these crop circles appear near or right directly next to ancient megalithic sites. And we show this in the film.
It's also interesting that they are designed to be seen from above.
Yeah. Who's the prince of the power of the air?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So fractals, it's interesting because the crop circles, at one point they were, beautiful geometric designs, and then they became these incredibly elaborate like fractals. And then, as you mentioned, Mark Flynn, they actually started, it's like the dragon was playing with us. He was using like logos and things, and some dismissed those as hoaxes. I'm sure
they're not.
No. But so what are these fractals? Have you deciphered any of these fractals, or any of the researchers deciphered them, and what are they telling us?
Many of the crop circles have the Fibonacci sequence, embedded in the circle. I had a mathematician come up to me, and it's way beyond my pay grade. She teaches at the college level. So she's really smart. And she watched my crop circle presentation at the Prophecy Watchers Conference a couple of months back. And she's actually on our YouTube channel where she weighs in. And she just said, human beings can't make this. Human beings cannot do what you see in the field. Because in order, I mean, you've got to have a computer to do this. And yet there it is in the field. And, there are hoaxes and all this other stuff. But when you get into the three-dimensionality of some of the crop circles and the Fibonacci sequence that's there and the golden spiral, it's like, wait a minute. This is not two bozos out in the field with a stock stomper and a measuring tape and some string. You're looking at something far more advanced than that.
And have you been to inside a crop circle? Have you been to like Wiltshire, England, or?
We were in Wiltshire. We actually filmed that. You see, Francisco and I were talking. It's the first crop circle that either of us has ever really seen. Well, we couldn't get into the field because I flew the drone over the circle. The Chillicothe crop circle, the farmer was not letting anyone in but Jeffrey Wilson. I was there when that crop circle, and we talk about this in the film, the Nephilim Mounds Conference is going on in Newark, Ohio. So for the first time in thousands of years, you've got three Christian men, Gary Stearman, Russ Dizdar, L.A. Marzulli, saying, wait a minute, these were not built by Native Americans. This is the fingerprints of the dragon. And up until that point, that had never been stated, to the best of my knowledge. Give myself a way out. Well, I said it in 1943, whatever. Okay. So I didn't know about that. So to the best of my knowledge, that's never been stated like that. That crop circle appeared directly across from the Chillicothe Mound group. And some people like Fritz Zimmerman and other people believe that there was something called the Hopewell Road. Hopewell is a misnomer because Hopewell is a farmer who has nothing to do with the building of the mounds. He was just a farmer that found some artifacts, so they just named this entire culture the Hopewell culture. It's just unbelievable. Well, the Hopewell Indians, they don't even know what they called them. They have no idea or where they, excuse me, where they originated from. The modern day archaeologists say they just assimilated back into the tribes, but there's no indigenous tribe in Ohio or the surrounding area that, and in the year of the four sons or whatever, however you want to say it, in the year of the 3 cold winter months, these people came out of the east, Ohio, and they asked to join our tribe. There were 24 of them. It's not there. And Native Americans take pride in their oral tradition. Something like that they would have noted. It's not there in any of the tribes. None of the tribes talk about an influx of people coming in from Ohio. It's not there.
You're referring to like the red-haired giants? Are you referring to like red-haired?
Whoever did this is what's interesting. And this is a theory I have. But Richard, you see this everywhere. I mean, I'm not all over the globe, but I've been to a lot of places. And we're still going to other places. I hear the same story over and over and over again. If I'm in Peru, if I'm in Sardinia, if I'm in Malta, if I'm in Spain, if I'm in Israel, no matter where I go, I hear the same story. Well, all we know is that there was this culture that came in and they built this stuff and then they just disappeared. And it's like, wait a minute, time out. What is this? Wait a second. Is this just a coincidence that we keep hearing this? And it's the same thing in Ohio. It's the same thing in Corral, Peru, where this culture just built these pyramids and leveled the flame, this plain with all these constellations, and they knew all of this stuff. And there's no pre-existing culture. Let's build some monuments. Well, what are those monuments? Oh, we'll call them a pyramid. I mean, it's just like, bam, the whole thing in Corral. It's the oldest site in America, over 5,000 years old. It just rises from nothing. There's no pre-existing culture. There's no, well, let's experiment with the pyramid. It's just bam, and there it is. And then it all just disappears. Same thing in Mexico, Teotihuacan. So the archaeologists call them the Teotihuacanos. They have no idea what happened to these people. Same story. Well, they just assimilated into the indigenous population, but nobody says that. So let me get something straight. You build a city like Teotihuacan, or taking a step backwards, in Corral, Peru, and then you just disappear. You just decide, well, I don't want to live here anymore because, yeah, it's climate change, and they use that all the time. They use the climate change. Well, it's climate change, and that's why these people couldn't live here anymore, so they all left. Nonsense. It's the same. We hear exactly the same. It's parroted, and all those places I just mentioned. Something happened. I have a theory, but it's a theory. But something happened to those people. And I believe it's a supernatural explanation to it.
All right. Do you want to get into that?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. What happened to the, well, we're talking about Nephilim here, right? When we're talking about the mound builders and whose remains are in the mounds or whose skulls are in Peru, we're talking about the Nephilim that just suddenly vanished after building these cities and monuments. Where did they go? What happened to them?
This is conjecture. It's a theory. It's pretty much 99.999% unprovable, unless you know a good angel comes down and makes an announcement on CNN or something like that. I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think he'd choose CNN, but maybe he would. Maybe that's exactly the place to go. I think the Lord intervened, and what I mean by that, we do have precedent for it in Scripture. So Sodom and Gomorrah gets to the point where the wickedness is overwhelming. He sends two angels and it's destroyed. The sin of the Amorites comes into its fullness after 400 years where the children of Israel are down in Egypt. And then they go up to the promised land, and that generation won't go in. They're terrified of a Nephilim. But the second generation does go in, and they begin to destroy the Nephilim tribe. But then there's this diaspora where they flee. The Teotihuacanos just disappear. No one knows what happens to them. The Hopewell, the Adena, whoever these people are, they just disappear. So the Lord was going to destroy Nineveh. He sends Jonah in. They all repent. Okay, we're not going to destroy it. Backs off. Backs off. But wherever the Nephilim are, the judgment seems to be very final. Same thing with Chaco Canyon. Now, archaeologists will argue that till the cows come home. But they say the same thing. Somehow Chaco Canyon was abandoned, probably because of climate change. It's always climate change. Somehow they weren't able to, let me get this straight. There's no pre-existing culture for Chaco Canyon. The same thing, exactly the same thing happens. They know about the 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle, language of the dragon. It's all embedded there. It's all coded. They know about the equinoxes, solstices, and everything else. It's all there. They leave their monuments, and there's cannibalism that's found at Chaco Canyon. Of course, you can't talk about that because you're a racist if you do. But we're not saying it was Native Americans who did this, who were the cannibals. We're saying the Nephilim were there. The Nephilim were cannibals. We know that from the Book of Enoch and other texts. But Native Americans talk about the 9, 10, 12-foot red-haired giants, 6 fingers coming in, and they were cannibalistic. Chief Joseph says on the records they would rip the head off the braves like a Coke bottle cap and drink the blood like this.
Wow.
I mean, that's like so barbaric. It's like beyond, I never want to be in even remotely in an area where this kind of thing is going on. I mean, that's like, so because I'm a frank supernaturalist, I don't look for a supernatural explanation at first. I don't. I try to find out, well, maybe the archaeologists are right. But when you hear the same thing from Peru to Teotihuacan, Chaco Canyon, to all the Ohio, all the sites, all down the Mississippi River, you go over to Stonehenge, you go to Karnak, France, 80,000 standing stones. You go to Menga in Spain. You go to Portugal, where Portuguese Stonehenge is there. Cromic Amandres or Zambujero. It's always the same story. I mean, it's repeated. No matter where you go, it's repeated. Well, we don't know what happened to them. They must have just assimilated into the existing culture. But there's no record of that. Surely somebody would have written something down. It's not there.
And so, what happened?
I think God took them off the planet.
Like a rapture?
Yeah. Well, but here's the other point. We know that he destroys Sodom and Gomorrah. We know that he can destroy Nineveh. He doesn't do that. We know that there are thousands of people that go missing every year in the public parks. Just talked to David Pilates about that, and no one talks about it. But we know that that's a fact. Thousands of people go missing. So if the bad guys can do it, can the good guys do it? And the answer to that is yeah.
All right. Okay.
That is total conjecture on my part, but it's based on years of research, going to all these different places and hearing the same story. Going, I've heard that before.
It fits. It fits. We'll take a quick time out. L.A. Marzulli stays with us as we continue to expose the secret language of the dragon. Crop circles right here on Strange Planet. Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there. Welcome once again to another episode of Strange Planet. Thank you, as always, for sticking me in your ear. And if you haven't done so already and you want to sort of dive deeper into Strange Planet, you might want to consider becoming a premium subscriber. There are 3 sort of monthly tiers to choose from. So the best way to find out more about those and to subscribe, just go to strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm, strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm, or just click on the link in the episode notes. All right, we're in for another wild ride on tonight's edition of Strange Planet, and a returning guest by popular demand. I had such tremendous feedback the last time I had Mark Carpenter on talking about giants, talking about the legend of that giant that was supposedly killed by special forces in Afghanistan back in the early 2000s. Boy, that one really just kind of captured everyone's imagination, and they said, bring back Mark, we want to hear more. So we're going to do that right now. Mark is an anthropologist, an explorer, an author. He's worked on Mayan archaeological excavations on the Yucatan Peninsula, analyzing prehistoric Mexico. He's also spent years living alongside various Native American tribes and Polynesians in North America and Hawaii, studying their ancient traditions. His expertise is human origin paradigms, and he's considered a bit of a rogue cultural scholar, accusing the scientific establishment of a conspiracy to distort human history, something we talk a lot about on this program. And it's a delight to welcome Mark back. How are you, Mark? Great to see you again.
Thanks. I'm really great. I really appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You must come across a lot of sort of interesting documents, ancient maps, and you know that sort of thing. How do you establish when you get, let's say, an ancient map that it's how do you verify it? In other words,
well, in the archaeological, anthropological world, especially nowadays, it's very, very specialized. So there are these niches. They're more like covens these days. But what you're talking about there would be the expertise of the epigraphers. These are the experts in the ancient languages and the ancient symbols and deciphering them. And I'll be honest with you, though their achievements are mystical even to me. I am not an expert in epigraphy, and the work that they do, for instance, guys like David H. Kelly. David H. Kelly, rest in peace, is the man who basically single-handedly cracked the Mayan lexicon a few decades ago. And they have these really intricate processes by which they trace the closest known languages, and they look for these very subtle inflections, and they do these painstaking processes by which they determine their authenticity and what they mean.
So you have knowledge of one of these types of maps, an ancient map, supposedly leading to the location of some hidden pyramids throughout the Valley of Mexico. Well, I mean, there are pyramids all over Mexico.
Right.
These are, I guess, heretofore unknown hidden pyramids. Tell me about the map, how you found out about it, and then we'll get into where these pyramids are and
Sure.
what they mean.
So the map is commonly known as MC2. And it's out there. Anybody can look it up. It was discovered. The conquistadors erected cathedrals atop many of the old ancient religious ritual spaces. Some of them were pyramids, and they built pyramids overgrown by vegetation, and they would erect cathedrals atop them in sort of, a repurposing of the ancient ritual space into a now Christian space.
Right.
But in one of these monasteries, well, okay, let's backtrack for one moment. Needless to say, during the conquistadors in this period, there was a general eradication of the ancient traditions, the ancient Maya and Aztec traditions, under the guise of converting them to Christianity. And when they did that, many, many ancient texts were lost. A few codices did survive. And this one was discovered very, very recently in one of these cathedrals built atop a pyramid, where apparently some monks or friars had hidden it centuries ago. And the mainstream epigraphers have validated its authenticity. It's an Aztec map. I don't actually remember exactly how old it is, but centuries at least. And almost certainly it derives from a tradition even older.
Mm-hmm.
But this map is not just a map. It's a stylized creation narrative, which chronicles the origin of Mesoamerican civilization. And it's really wild. It's well, and also we can validate the authenticity of the geographical points, because some of the pyramids and landmarks on the map are perfectly valid, and we can align them to the real marks that we know exist. And that's where the profoundness comes in, because if we can align the known landmarks, then that gives a great deal of credibility to these unknown landmarks. And then when you ground truth them, what you find are pyramidal shaped earthen mounds that are quite obviously pyramids that have been overgrown by vegetation. But where it gets really bizarre and interesting are the Mexican mainstream authorities. So we're talking about the INAH, the National Institute of Anthropology and History. We can think of them like the Mexican Smithsonian. And actually, they are directly linked to the Smithsonian by what else? Money.
Yeah.
And anyway, the INAH denies that these are pyramids. I have spoken to the locals who know they're pyramids. not only do they know their pyramids, they still use them ritualistically. I'm
How
not
would they?
saying,
Sorry,
yeah,
Mark.
no, go ahead.
How would they use them ritualistically?
Well, I'm not saying that the traditions are being maintained verbatim as they were back in ancient times, and we should hope not, because
Yeah,
they would be up there sacrificing people, and that's no good.
right. Removing the hearts
Um,
of children.
right, right. But I think they do ascend the pyramid. I'm in this moment. I'm thinking of one pyramid, hidden pyramid specifically, known as Teotihuacan. And Teotihuacan is not just a sacred site. Based on the alignments with the other pyramids and volcanoes of the valley, this holds a very central and sacred place. And so, to answer your question, um, there are periodic astronomical alignments which they regard as very sacred times of renewal. Kind of think of it like a big new year,
Right.
but not annual. It's more than annual. But anyway, I think from what I understood from them, they ascend the pyramid on this sacred annual day, and they carry out some shell of the practices and rituals that originated the pyramid in the first place,
So,
which is a general renewal of time and space.
how many of these hidden pyramids are there on the map?
Well, I'm really focused on Teotihuacan, but I would say conservatively a dozen.
Hmm.
You know, I haven't. There's a lot going on this map, and it takes a lot to analyze the map and then ground truth it. And I don't want to step out of line and say there's more than there are. But conservatively, I'm very comfortable saying there are 12 authentic, uncharted pyramids on Teotihuacan, on MC2. The most fascinating of which is Teotihuacan, and during heavy rains, soil is eroded away from the base of the structure, revealing masonry. And I have photographs of this. And of course, the natives know it. And the natives also uncover artifacts all the time. So it's really a fact that this is an ancient sacred pyramid. And why the INAH refuses to acknowledge this is a mystery in and of itself.
What sort of artifacts would you suppose would be contained around, or perhaps even inside, this pyramid?
Well, yeah, that's a great question and really leads into what I think they're concerned about discovering. The map doesn't just reveal that there's a pyramid there. It also reveals a huge subterranean space beneath it. And it seems there is either a living or iconic figure being worshipped beneath the pyramid. Okay, now if we can put that on pause for a moment and toggle over to Teotihuacan.
Mm-hmm.
So Teotihuacan is the really epic, massive, enigmatic pyramid of Mexico. The archaeological community doesn't even like to talk about it. It's so enigmatic, Teotihuacan. They have no idea who built it, how. You know, people talk about the Egyptian pyramids in this way, but Teotihuacan, there's even less information available about Teotihuacan. At least with Egypt, they theorize, you know, Khufu, Khafre. There's not even a theory for Teotihuacan. No one even puts a name on it. That's how mysterious it is. But okay, getting back to the subterranean aspect. First of all, it's important to understand that the Valley of Mexico is a volcanic plateau. In the well, I'll come back to that in a moment. But the point is, this is a karst earth volcanic area. And beneath Teotihuacan was recently discovered enormous subterranean cavities. Now, they must be man-made because of the way in which they align with the pyramid structures. However, it seems that they may have been natural features that were then modified.
Right.
Beneath Teotihuacan, they found some very, very strange things, like a man-made pond of liquid mercury. Very, very bizarre. They also found the entire system was lined with tiny spheres of pyrite, fool's gold. They also found a whole forest of these odd-looking little statues. The odd-looking statues seem to be arranged in a ceremonial way around the lake or pond of Mercury. It seems that they were. It seemed this is a bit of a speculative stretch, but this is well within mainstream interpretation, which is that they were sort of recreating, if we will. You sort of imagine sympathetic magic. So, like, they are reenacting an ancient and sacred event, some primordial deed of the gods of creation, their gods of creation. Now, okay, so let's toggle back really quick with that in mind to what is on MC2 and what it depicts beneath Teotihuacan, which is another sacred subterranean space. I suspect what the INAH does not want to reveal to the public is that beneath the Valley of Mexico is a mind-boggling, wondrous labyrinth of subterranean tunnels stretching across the entire valley. And I'm going to even take it further down into a subterranean ecosystem that may indeed be inhabited to this day.
Wow. Now, who discovered and when was it discovered, this man-made lake of liquid mercury and tunnels lined with pyrite beneath Teotihuacan? Who found that and how long ago?
The exact INAH creature that officially took credit, I honestly don't even remember, because I disregard their hierarchy of achievement and accomplishment because it is utter nonsense. I have some sour grapes with these people. They completely distorted the discoveries of Pakal and the Red Queen. And the archaeologist who was responsible for that, Ruiz, his work was largely shadowed and eclipsed and distorted by their goons.
Okay.
And
sorry to interrupt, Mark, but who were the you mentioned the discovery of those two. You'll have to explain who they were. The Red Queen and
Sure. In 1952, the Rockefeller Foundation was financing a dig at the Mayan site now known as Palenque. A secret chamber was discovered in the so-called Pyramid of Inscriptions at Palenque. It's a step pyramid covered in glyphs. Ruiz found a hidden chamber and spent 4 years digging it out, in which it led down into a even more secret burial chamber. this is where they discovered the sarcophagus of Pakal. You might be familiar with this sarcophagus, anyone might, because the alternative community online claims it depicts Pakal operating what looks maybe like an interstellar vehicle.
And Pakal was what, a king of the Aztecs?
Maya. So this
Maya.
would be Maya, and he was a king. Their hierarchical system was a bit different, but yes, what the academics would call them were holy lords. Definitely despotic rulers who were believed to be divine incarnations of their deity. I would liken them, my research links them to the biblical Nephilim. Or if you like, you can go Greco-Roman and you think of figures like the Cyclops or, Heracles. These are hybridized descendants of mortals and deities whose lineages then ruled as under the divine right to rule, which, as we just recently saw, is still a practice continued on to this day.
So the Mexican authorities, they took credit for this discovery away from Ruiz, or?
Well, they distorted his find. They took what was his discovery and they gave it to someone else, and that person then reigned over it for the remainder of his life until he died. And it was really the distortion of what he discovered. He discovered what he described in his reports as tall and robust skeletons. But then later they claimed that he was only 5'7". Furthermore, the skeletons of both Pakal and Red Queen have gone missing. So we don't even know where these remains are. Ruiz, over the decades, now it wasn't available when he found it, but much later, they did effectuate DNA analyses, but these were suppressed. And so I basically just have a real nasty position when it comes to the INAH and who found what. Oh, by the way, these Pakal and Red Queen excavation reports, the most important, mind you, in the history of Mayan archaeology, are missing from the INAH archives to this day. You go there, blank spot where the reports should be.
They do have a lot in common with the Smithsonian.
Yes, they do.
Mark Carpenter is with us, explorer, author. We'll take a quick time out and come back and discuss more mysteries. Stay with us. Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there.